I'm an English grad, not a maths grad. I don't know how to count. Today I'll be sharing with you some of my productivity tips or my ideas on how to stay motivated, especially during lockdown or working from home. So a lot of you will have exams coming up at the minute, or whether that's A-levels, GCSEs, final year university exams, or even some of you might have job interviews on the horizon, which is something I really want to focus on my channel. And I'm just here to share with you how I personally stay motivated when I've got something to research or look up, or an essay to write, or a job interview to prepare for, or client work that I'm managing at work at the minute. And I hope you can find some of these useful too. Let's get started. So tip number 1. This might seem really obvious, but it's so important to make a list of all of the things you have to do. And I've definitely in the past just thought, I'll remember to do that. I'm so organized. And, an hour later and I've forgotten to do the task and someone's emailing me at work. Emma, have you emailed this client, or have you tweaked all of the edits on this presentation we've been creating? So it's so important to make a list of all your tasks, but I think it's more important than just a simple list of here's everything to do. I can find that quite overwhelming myself. I find it really useful to order things in terms of like hierarchy. 1, my highest priority, all the way down to say 10, if I've got 10 tasks to do in the day, at my lowest priority. If you have quite a lot of tasks that you're doing across maybe a longer period of time, say a week, you're preparing an essay, or you've got a couple of deadlines to meet, or a couple of pieces of work you need to get done. I like to sometimes break it up into 3 columns. So like my must get done, should get done, and could get done. It's pretty self-explanatory, but everything that's in the must column, I need to get done in that day. And if I get all of the tasks done in my must-have column, then I can move on to my should get done, which might set me up a little bit better for later in the week. If I get these things done, I might free up a little bit more time later on. And then if I do manage to make it through my should get done, I like to move on to my could get done tasks. These might just be things like organizing my spreadsheets or changing my file names, making sure everything's stored in the right place. They're sort of things I can do as I go when I do get free time. But it also means if you get everything done super early, you're not sat wasting time and thinking, what can I do now? Or once the time's passed, you look back and think, oh gosh, I had those 2 free hours yesterday. I could have been doing this task I forgot I needed to do. So I find that really helpful. So yeah, tip 1, make a list. Step 2, I like to make sure that everything is in my line of sight. So what I mean by this is I like to make sure all my tabs are clean and tidy. I'll have like a new window open for each task. If I'm managing, say, 3 projects in one day, I'll make sure they each have a different window with multiple tabs in that window for the task, but I don't sort of cross windows. I like to keep everything in their own spaces. I think this is really helpful in my work environment, I have a dual screen. So sometimes if it's 2 tasks, I might say the tasks for this job are on this screen and the tasks for this job are on this screen. And it just helps to like visually organize my brain. I'm quite a visual thinker and I like to keep things in their boxes, and I like to think I'm a really organized person. It's something I've always been really good at, just to avoid stress. And I think I learned that early on because I definitely got very stressed at school sitting exams. So I had to learn really quick, like, what works for me? How can I make sure I stay on top of everything? So I've been doing these for lots and lots of years now, like since I was sitting my GCSEs probably. But yeah, keep everything in my line of sight. But that also means stick post-it notes around, write things on a whiteboard if you have one. Just make sure you have like sort of reminders to yourself, maybe stuck around your room or on the wall in front of you. I find that really helpful, especially links back to my first point, making lists. But if it's too overwhelming to like flick back to my list, I like to just have like a sticky label on the side of my computer screen that I go, oh, I need to get that done, because I don't like seeing it there. Obviously it's distracting me, but that's the point. Like, it's drawing my eyes back to it. I need to do this thing, and I can remove the sticky label. I can cross it off my list, and then my brain feels like calm knowing I've done that and it's gone and out the way. So I find that really helpful for high priority tasks in particular. Next up, I've just sort of thought of this one on the spot. So tip 3, make sure you have all of your contact information in one place. Like, keep an address book. You might feel like you don't need one now, but trust me, you might do. You don't know when you're going to need to get in touch with a certain client or your boss or your university professor or your school teacher. It's just really helpful to have all of your contact details in one place, or these are all my client contacts for this project, or these are all my university lecturers for this module, just so you can like flick to it and say, this is the person I need to contact, there it is, instead of like scrolling through websites and where's their email, oh, is this the right email, oh, that's a phone number, I'd rather email than use their phone, you know what I mean? Like, make sure it's all in one place, like keep everything together. Tip number 4, make a timetable and stick to it. Like, this is so important. There's no point in spending hours and hours making your fancy timetable with your highlighters and lots of coloured pens and then sort of disregarding it and not following it. Like, why try not to waste too much time creating a nice timeline. I always found that, or like timetable, when I made my timetables, that sometimes things would change and I'd rub things out and replace or reshuffle things, but do have some sort of a rough outline, even if it's not hour by hour. Just sort of, this day I'm working on this module or these 3 projects or whatever you're doing. Just make sure you have a rough idea. So you say if you have a month to revise for your exams, or you have a month until your project deadline, then make sure you know you can get all of that done within the month. I think that's especially helpful at work. We use an app called Asana, which I find really helpful just to keep track of all my client deadlines, especially when we're creating multiple versions of the same document and I keep getting feedback and then having to go back and correct it again. It's really helpful to know the deadline for this might be the end of May, and as long as I can get my 3 rounds of feedback in and my user testing in or whatever, then I definitely know that this project is going to be done and dusted and ready for my client. But it's also a good habit to get into while you're at school and while you're at university, because by the time you get into the working world, you need to have these transferable skills nailed down. Like, people are paying for your time now, so you need to make sure you deliver results and get things, sent out when they need to be and to a high standard. So try and incorporate these practices into your routine now when it's most important, because they'll be second nature by the time it comes to applying for jobs. I think this one's also really useful if you're applying for jobs right now, to have a timetable or some sort of spreadsheet to keep track of what you've applied for, if you've heard back or not, when the deadline for the application is, what round of the application process you're on to just make sure you haven't forgotten to submit something on time, because you might not have the opportunity to resubmit once that deadline's gone. You need to make sure you keep track of all of the things you need to do. Tip number 5? Are we on to 5 now? I'm an English grad, not a maths grad. I don't know how to count. Tip number 5, make sure you go outside. Take a break. Take some time to relax. Take some time for yourself. This is so important. Like, I completely burned out in my second year of university, and I remember going to see my supervisor and saying, I can't revise, like, I'm going to fail, like, every time I sit down, nothing's going in, I just cry and I can't do it. And he was like, you've been revising for weeks and weeks and weeks now. And he was like, you've still got a couple more weeks till the exams are here and you're already burned out. This tells me you've been working too much, pushing yourself too hard. Take a break. And this is honestly the best advice I have ever been given. And if you're like me and you find it difficult to take breaks because you feel guilty that you're not studying or you're wasting time, my biggest tip to you is to make sure you take productive breaks. So that might not be sitting scrolling through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Like, go outside on a run, or go and talk to your family members in your house, or stretch or something. I don't know. You can like watch films and watch YouTube, but make sure you don't. I think mindless fun can sort of drain you, whereas when you've had productive fun, as I call it, then you're ready to like go back to work and you think, wow, I've really had some productive fun, I'm ready to sit down and do some productive work now. And like, I think getting outside is really important as well. Get some fresh air, or walk around, even if you're just like walking up and down your stairs at your house. Like, sometimes that's all I need, because I've been sat in a chair all day long and it's just not good for you. You need to clear your mind and not think about work. And I think sometimes not look at screens. Like, we look at screens so much these days. Like, the irony in this, because you're going to be watching me on a screen, but like, just take a step back, chill out, don't look at your screen, go look at the sunshine. On the back of that, I'd sort of say sleep well, eat well. Like, they're super, super important. Like, set a bedtime and get up early. Like, I like to try not to stay up past 11, although I have been off work this week, so I've been a bit more relaxed with it. But like, I like to definitely be like, no more screens after 11. Like, do a guided meditation or something. focus on my breathing, clear my mind, and that has been the best way that I've managed to get to sleep. I don't know if you're like me or not, but I used to be that person that would sit at night and be like, tomorrow I've got to do this, this and this, and I managed to get this task done last night, and oh my gosh, that deadline, I forgot about that, I need to get up and write it down. Just, there's nothing you can do right now. It's time to sleep. Like, just put it out of your mind, focus on your breathing, and try and get some sleep. Eat at regular times just to keep your energy up, because there's no way you can work effectively if you're running on low sleep and no food. It sounds like a really easy one, but a lot of people neglect it. So yeah, sleep well, eat well. I don't even know what tip we're on to now. 6, 7, who knows? But I think in life, or when it comes to work, there are two types of workers or two types of people. There are some people who like to do things chronologically, one task at a time. You can't move on to the next task until the task you're doing is finished. I think I'm kind of like that, though I have to be like on my toes a bit with work, because sometimes you might get moved off one project and straight onto another. But yeah, so there's one type of person, one task at a time, get it done, and make sure you get it done to a high standard. And then there are other people who I think like to work in a bit more of a scattered way, where they're working on one project and you're starting to feel a bit bored by this and you're not concentrating on it anymore, and you need something new just to like keep your engagement and move on to a next project and just keep moving every time you lose energy, which is also a really good way of working. It means you're not forcing yourself to just keep looking at the same thing again and again. Like, break your work up with other work, which is something I did do at university a couple of times. If I was just sat writing an essay all day and I might be like, I have no ideas, I have brain fog, mind blank, whatever you want to call it, and just sort of being like, well, I know I have this article I need to read for a class next week, and I'm struggling to write this. Instead of wasting time trying to do this essay that I can't really type, why don't I just do more productive work? And then it's still time well spent, because you're getting ahead somewhere else or doing another piece of work that's interesting to you. And then once you finish that, you might say, now I'm ready to go back to what I was working on before, because I've had a break from it and I can step back and re-look at it from a different, fresh set of eyes. So yeah, two types of work, one at a time, or breaking up your work with work. And finally, this is a super obvious one, but I know a lot of people like to work to timers. I know there's lots of research being done into this, like the Pomodoro technique and things, but the one I found, or the times that I thought worked best for me, were 50 minutes work, 10 minutes break, because I think for me personally, if I took a break longer than 10 minutes, then I'd start to feel guilty and stressed about taking time out. Some people need longer breaks, some people can't maintain their concentration for that long, but I was always the type of person when studying, especially for my final year Cambridge exams, I like to do 7 or 8 hour working days, which might sound like a lot, but it's kind of like how a work day works when you're in the real world. And I would just go like really intense at it, 50 minutes work, 10 minutes off, 50 minutes work, 10 minutes off all day. And then it meant I could actually finish earlier and enjoy all of my evening off instead of working late into the night, which just really doesn't work for me. I would start at about 8:30 in the morning and then finish at about 5:30, make dinner and be eating at about 6 o'clock, and just have the rest of my evening off to do as I pleased. And I really needed that to stay motivated. So I hope you found some of these study tips, productivity tips helpful, whether you're in school, at university, or like me in a job. And I hope that you can particularly apply them now during lockdown, when it's harder than ever to stay motivated, when everything is getting a bit monotonous. I have placed an emphasis on routine and productivity, but I like to emphasize just before I leave that it's okay not to be productive, and it's okay to have days where you can't do things. I definitely had that at Cambridge, where there were times I'd have to be like, I just can't work today. I need to take a whole day off and not feel guilty for it. And you'll work so much better for it if you just say, I need to give myself this time. And I think seeing breaks as work can be helpful. Again, if you're like me and you struggle to take breaks without feeling guilty, see it as work. I need to take this productive break to do more productive work. So yeah, if you're struggling at the minute, that's fine. Like, we're in a strange situation, and we all need to learn to just, take a break. But for now, it's okay if you're not operating as you normally would. So if you have enjoyed this video, give me a like, leave some comments below about your thoughts and some of your study tips, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Bye!